Alarm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. It is Friday, and James, for the second time since the start of the new year, it is a no late swap Friday over here on DraftKings. I'm not really sure where and when and why they decided to do the slates that they choose for these no late swap Fridays here, but this is now the second time they've implemented no late swap. We have 6 games here on tonight's main slate on DraftKings. If you're over on FanDuel, they, for whatever reason, cut out the 9:30 start time there. So you don't have maybe the best matchup on the board, Atlanta, Utah, over on FanDuel. But, over on DraftKings tonight, you do have the 6 full games, but just no late swap here. Sir, how are we doing today, man?
Happy Friday. Doing well. Late swap. No late swap sucks. Let's go.
No late swap does suck. Donnie's in there saying he's here first. No late swap day going on. Coach Chris in the chat, what's up? He said he had to play on no late swap day. So, he's back. And Toronto Dave, of course, Raptors on the main slate. Toronto Dave in here early. Home matchup against Orlando. We'll certainly be talking about that one here today. NBA Playbook is out for everybody who wants to go check that out. Obviously, any updates that come through, because we are waiting on some injury news still to come here for today. But Phoenix versus Charlotte. Charlotte's at home getting 10.5, 219 total. Miami versus Detroit. Detroit getting 8, a 215 total there. Orlando, Toronto getting 8.5, 217. Clippers, Pelicans giving 6 at home, 219. Denver, San Antonio, the Spurs getting 10.5 at 223.5. And again, if you're on DraftKings, you get Atlanta, Utah getting 3 at home at 224. If you're on FanDuel, well, then that game is not on your slate here this evening. James, any totals, matchups, spreads at all stick out to you?
No, let's get into it.
All righty, we'll jump into it. As we say, injuries are the name of the game here. Point guard has a couple of guys we are looking at, but not DeJounte Murray. Murray's at your top price, $9,500 at the position here, coming off of 40 actual against Portland last time out. Again, great spot for him here tonight against Utah. Would have been a core part of, I'm sure, many lineups if you're building and stacking that game in particular. But when it comes to injuries, we have Harden and we have Cade Cunningham here. Cade is an injury management questionable. You put in the Discord that Cade didn't play the fourth quarter last game because he didn't want to. He told the coach to let Marcus play. So take that for what you will. But obviously, you've mentioned that, Cade's minutes at times have been a bit frustrating, to say the least. And for him to take himself out of a game that they were winning and a game that he went 8 for 20 from the floor for the second straight game, certainly frustrating. And then you have James Harden, questionable. He himself said wasn't sure if he was going to play in this one or not. So 2 big names we were waiting on official injury statuses for.
Yeah, starting with Murray, I mean, he's going to be very popular. He's been super good. There has been ceilings that we hadn't been seeing. 2 of the last 3, he's scored 40 actuals. So if you want to get to Murray for sure. I'd be interested in what Detroit does here. Obviously, if Cade's hurt, or injury management is injury management, but they're down Quentin Grimes, down Asar Thompson. So if Cade were to play, I'd assume we would see, that 32-minute type Cade Cunningham role with Sasser playing alongside of him, kind of as the backup too as well. So I'm okay with Cade. It's not a great matchup. Obviously, just the minutes are, if he plays, obviously there's a concern because you just can't trust that he will play more than 32. And apparently, if someone's playing well, a teammate, he will also allow them to play. And so that's, as a competitor and as a teammate, I'm sure that's great.
That's the second time we've had that happen this year. It wasn't Cade the first time, but there was another time this year where, like, the reason they didn't play, I think, was actually, never mind. I'm thinking football. It was David Montgomery led what's his face there? Jahmyr Gibbs get the rushing touchdown. That's what I was like. Nah, Gibbs can get it. It's like, what? What do you mean? What are we talking about here? Cade letting Marcus Sasser just play the fourth because, why not? You go get the minutes there, young guy. So Other guys in this tier, though, what are your thoughts on, quickly here, home, but against Orlando, Jamal Murray and Devin Vassell both sitting there in the mid tier as well. Murray 81 against San Antonio and Vassell on the opposite end of that matchup.
I mean, this is a brutal matchup for Toronto. Toronto Dave in here saying easy dub for the Raptors, which, obviously he was definitely said that with a smile on his face. No RJ Barrett, no Jakob Poeltl, no Scotty Barnes, potentially no Gary Trent. Obviously, the offense flowing through quickly, returns after a one-game absence, 36 minutes, 19 shots. He was the chalk monster over Cade, and of course, chalk always prevails. You can never fade chalk. So quickly, tough matchup, tournaments only. I think Jamal Murray is incredibly interesting. Obvious down game against Miami. It was a lot of Jokic in the fourth quarter. Denver 100 points is not great, but their offense had been really humming previously. And we know San Antonio, although a better defense since they, shifted to that Wembanyama center lineup, 8,100's a pretty good price. He had been like 83, 84 the last couple slates. And of course, DraftKings is not showing you that, but he had been 83, 84. And, good pace environment for the Nuggets. So, yeah, I like Jamal Murray here.
Yep, I agree with you there. Again, the pricing for me and coming off of all those 50 fantasy point games there, and you kind of called it out, right? Like San Antonio at home here, they have the talent on the offensive side of the ball to score. It's defensively they struggle, but maybe they keep it quick. Wemby had a big game against them earlier on this year. Jamal Murray wasn't active for that game. Vassell played 26 minutes, had 28 fantasy points there. Tier below, Bradley Beal, Terry Rozier, again, a couple of guards. Keontae George is the cover of the morning show here today. Again, not on the FanDuel slate, unfortunately, but how do you go away from Keontae George in this spot against Atlanta?
Yeah, really shorthanded Utah team, great environment. Keontae George is a great play, and he's being, he's priced appropriately. Finally, he's being rostered appropriately in this spot. Almost 30% of the field getting to him. So, this is the Keontae George tier for sure. Like, I don't trust Bradley Beal not to break down on the second legs of back-to-backs at this point, especially after 36 minutes the night prior. Right. Beal's been really good. Like, if you want to get to Bradley Beal, like, he has been super good. But, like, there's never a tell if he's going to break down or not. He just does. And then suddenly, like, the hamstring goes again, and you're like, oh, right, that's happened for 4 straight years. But he's been super good for a guy who's sub 7K for probably no reason.
And it's been an elite spot for point guards, too, this year.
It's just one of those things. Like, second leg of a back-to-back, and it's a really good matchup to, like, get back on the after a tough, second half against Boston, because it was a competitive first half and wasn't in the second half much. Like they were probably psyched out by Joe Mazzulla trying to block Royce O'Neal's shot at the timeout. But Rozier, same, like, tournaments. The minutes are good. Just Miami just doesn't look good with Terry Rozier, really. Things are really weird in Miami. I don't know if they're
They're going to be fine. Okay, they'll get Hero back, and then come the playoffs, they're going to clip, and people will be like, "Oh, we should have been more aware." I guess the only one that's right is like the only one that's not afraid of Miami right now. Yeah, he picked them over the Celtics already. So.
Oh yeah, I know. He does that every
year. He's got Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. He has them beating Boston. So
every year.
Moving our way down, obviously, if there is no KJ Knive, it'd be very interesting at $6,200. Micic, 2 games ago, kind of a down-ish game, bounces back for 42 fantasy points playing next to Trey Mann. 6K, certainly still okay playing him. And then you have the value. Bones Highland, if there's no James Harden, he played 32 minutes last night, 50 fantasy points for Bones Highland. We talk about him being a bucket every now and then, but 50 fantasy points out of Bones at 43, definitely something. And then Sasser's down here at 37. We were playing Sasser thinking he was going to play 20 minutes the other day anyways. Gave you 23 fantasy points. Obviously got all of that run because Cade didn't go back in the game, but Cade doesn't play tonight. He's going to be in for those minutes here again.
played the whole fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And like, so, math, he played 10 minutes prior to the fourth quarter. So like on pace for what, 16 minutes overall. And he ends up playing 22. So that's kind of a tilt. The Clipper situation is the first of the no late swap that you have to make a decision on. Because if you remember 2 weeks ago when they did it, there was like no news whatsoever. Things could not have gone better for DraftKings doing a no late swap because there was no issues. None, like nobody rolled out, not a lot of injury news. Well, the Clippers played 8, and we might not know the news. If you were to click on Bones Highland tonight at $4,300 and James Harden doesn't play and you get Bones Highland at 5% rostered, why wouldn't you think Bones Highland? I mean, I know New Orleans is a good defense, but is Bones Highland in really any circumstance not on the floor? Like, is he not? He's starting the game if there's no Harden. He's obviously, we know he's a bucket. There's a near 30% usage rate without Harden and Westbrook this year. That was prior to last night. Coming off a double-double where he played 32 minutes, like you would get Bones at 1% and you'd be just leaps and bounds ahead of the field. But like not knowing that obviously on a slate with no late swap is you can only do it in a scenario where you're playing multiple lineups. Like you can't, unless you get the news early, you cannot swap to Bones unless you're multi-enter.
I mean, we talk about it, right? It's all about your risk there as well. Like he was kind of in the rotation anyways without Westbrook, right? So, 21 to 18 minutes, you could plug him in at 43 and then hope that Harden gets ruled out. And if Harden gets ruled in, you're like, all right, well, at least I know I'm getting 20 minutes and maybe he'll do something with it, or maybe they get into a blowout situation. Pelicans are 6-point home favorites here, and then maybe get some run. And then if Harden doesn't play, you hit bingo, right? So he's certainly an interesting character for sure. You'll have at least the Detroit news ahead of roster lock because that's a 7 o'clock game, so we will know that. If you're on DraftKings, any interest in Krejci here? They've been starting him. He's been doing nothing. But
do you think that continues if we see
Jalen Johnson back? Oh, we don't know, right?
And now Bogdanovich is questionable, so
right.
That too. No.
Okay.
All that to say.
He's been doing nothing. Shooting guard position here, obviously Booker's 9K. Paul George, the cover of today's live stream show, coming off 50 fantasy points as well. This one I'm comfortable sort of playing regardless, but obviously a big boost if there is no James Harden.
Dude, I was shocked. I played Paul George at like 10% last night, and if you look at the numbers, sans Harden, sans Westbrook, like Kawhi was fine. I mean, Kawhi was actually a little underwhelming. Paul George is their best fantasy producer without those guys. And then the only complaint, he took 12 shots, didn't take a free throw. Like, bro, you could have gone for 50 actual if you kept shooting the basketball. Right. I mean, he had 11 for 12, 6 for 7, was really good everywhere. Paul George would be a guy I'd click on in him instantly. So I'm definitely intrigued in Paul George a little bit here. 8K is a very good price tag, and obviously another lesser extent, obviously, because George is going to start and play 35 plus minutes. But like, you click on George's name and then Harden doesn't play. When, like you said at the top, he himself said he's unsure about playing Friday. You get George at 1%. Sure, Pelicans great defense. Well, do you think Herb Jones is guarding Paul George or Kawhi? Because I think Paul George or Kawhi is getting Herb, which means Paul George, is just not getting hurt. Well, just not hurt. Like, it's just not Herb Jones. So, Paul George is definitely intriguing in tournaments for sure.
Yep, I'm with you there. From there, I go Colin Sexton right down the list, $7,300. Just an easy plays, no Clarkson, no marketing. Like he's just gonna, unless they get themselves in some sort of blowout situation, he should be in for a ceiling minutes game here. I still like Brandon Miller against Phoenix, even with Charlotte being underdogs here at $7,100. Again, just the potential that he has. Him and Bridges, they play a whole bunch of minutes. Bridges is obviously the more consistent player. That's why he is $1,800, $1,700 more dollars than Brandon Miller. But Brandon Miller also has games where he pops for 40, 50 fantasy points as well. And if Charlotte's going to hang it all, it's going to be probably on the backs of those two players there. Then we get into some value. Murphy did not have a good game against Cleveland. We probably should have read that one coming. Cleveland just is Cleveland, right? Good defense. Donovan Mitchell was back. They play slow. Could be a good bounce back spot. $5,800 for Murphy, where I don't really see why people would click his name here tonight. So for tournaments wise, you're going to get some low ownership here.
People don't click his name coming off 40 actual. They're not going to click his. They won't click his name tonight. 6%. That's about 5% higher than I thought I'd even be.
Honestly, I agree with you. But just for tournaments on a small slate like this, he goes for 50 and he's under 10. And we see guys sometimes like Grayson Allen, right? Grayson Allen have like 40 fantasy points, and we'll joke about it. It's, well, what are the odds he goes for it again? Like Murphy's been doing it like every other game here for 2 weeks. So it's certainly something he is capable of. Clippers obviously a little bit of a better matchup here than Cleveland, so I definitely like him at 58, even if the price is a little bit more than we're used to paying. Norm, been playing him all season long. I might have been the first one on the Norm pile bus, so happy. They really haven't touched the price tag on him all too much this year. He sits in the low fours, low five, or mid fours, low fives most of the season, so good going there. Any other shooting guards for you? Because the chalk of tonight is a guy that we've tried to play before.
Yeah.
Where do you stand with Mr. Tyler Horton Tucker, which is coming in a tick under 50% tonight?
I mean, there's a lot of directions Utah can go. Obviously, we know no Markkanen. We know no Clarkson. We know no Chris Dunn. The Chris Dunn thing's a new wrinkle because, obviously he's been playing or at least been in the rotation. Maybe Hendricks back. He practiced in full the last time Utah was on the floor practicing on Wednesday.
Yep.
So like I expect Horton Tucker to be in the rotation, but that by no means he's going to be in the rotation. Like he's a good fantasy point per minute guy. He's
getting 44%.
Yeah, I mean it's just the thing is it's just like minutes. He's a good fantasy point per minute guy, but how many minutes does that mean? Because if he gets into the 20s, then it's worth it, right? Like if he's in low to mid 20s of minutes, he's going to pay off the price in spade.
If you roster him tonight and he's not in the starting lineup, you should be terrified.
I mean, I don't expect him to be in the starting lineup. Keontae, Sexton, Sensabaugh, or Semenak, Collins, Kessler, and then if Hendricks is back, they probably shift Kessler back to the bench and start Hendricks, Collins, right?
So you think Sensabaugh, Semenak start at small forward?
I think one of those two start at small forward. Yeah, I would say Sensabaugh starts, not confidently, but I would say one of those two were to start at small forward. I mean, it's a 9:30 game with no late swap. We just don't. So
could get some Johnny Zhang here,
dude, it is Will Hardy. There is endless amounts of possibilities that Utah can go with the rotation. I think what we know, George, Sexton, Collins, right? 3 for sure. If Hendricks plays, I'd assume Hendricks starts because he was
starting
previously the injury. And then the fifth starter, they've started Sensabaugh a little bit. They were starting Chris Dunn. Obviously, he got removed from the starting lineup, and now he's hurt. Clarkson is now hurt. I would assume it's Sensabaugh, Semenak, outside chance THT, but that ship seems to be sailed. So,
I'm just saying, with that ownership here, that's a big deal on DraftKings, right? Because that's a player that could play 17 minutes or 34 minutes, and it'll honestly probably depend on whether or not he's in the starting lineup or not. So, you want to be a little different tonight? Fade some Tyler Horton Tucker. If you want to ride the field and live and die by it and hope the rest of your lineup wins out, then you can do that there as well.
You want to know what the update? So I updated a little bit before we hopped on air. We just got another update that we'll update after the show.
Okay.
Do you think that his ownership has gone down or gone up since we have it at 36.5%? Do you think it's gone down or up?
Up.
That's correct. It is now 45% rostered. So now half the field. So you take that. So if you're playing a large field tournament, half the field as of right now is rostering Tyler Horton Tucker.
A guy that could play 11 minutes tonight or
22?
40.
Well, I would say 40 is probably, I would say like range of outcome for him is like wider than maybe anyone on the slate, like 8 to 24,
He's
20.
been without guys for a while. He played 9 minutes too.
I know, which is like Hendricks coming back does not help him because now like they're giving minutes to Sensabaugh here. And they have to like squeeze small forward, right? Now like we're squeezing minutes here. Now Semenak is apparently in the rotation. I think I saw Micah Potter got 13 minutes against Boston the other day. Like they're a nightmare. So if you play Townhorn Tucker and luck out on Hendricks being ruled out, and so be it. Like, but again,
they still have Kira Lewis on there.
Yeah, he might be their backup point guard today.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking like his benefit might be the fact that they're down 2 guards. So while we're looking at forwards, like he might just be the backup 2-3 for tonight, right?
What was the keyword that you said there?
Might be.
Might. Because, like you said, they have Lewis. They're playing Keontae George 40 minutes a night. Like, what if he is the backup point guard and George comes on and plays 43 minutes like he did against Miami? Then what? Then it's like, oh, well, he played 5 backup at point and 8 backup at shooting guard, and now it's 13 minutes total. It's like, oh, okay.
Brendan getting to us here. Cade Cunningham is in tonight with his injury management there. Does that give you any interest in Cade versus Miami here today?
If I say no, he's going to play 36 minutes. If I say yes, he's going to play 28. So
we got Sasser at 20% right now. Is that live or die?
Probably lives. I think it lives because the Quentin Grimes / Asar Thompson news probably like helps. You could play them both.
Where's our guy? Where's he at? Is he small forward only?
Who are you looking for?
Fournier? Is he small forward only?
Yeah.
Where is he?
3K small forward.
3K small forward. You probably have to give that a look tonight, don't you?
I don't know. So like Simone is just playing so many minutes. Like he is playing 37 and 38 minutes for Simone the last 2 games.
Okay.
So if he continues that, I still think like they played Umadi 15 minutes last
year,
right? And Umadi played like kind of essentially in front of Fournier. So where like could Fournier play 15 minutes? Maybe. Is it worth it at 3K?
I was trying to see where the 15 minutes for Grimes were going. So
I think it's distributed. Sasser, Umadi, and Fournier gets a bump. I think Fournier gets a bump, but like the bump, I don't know if the
would have been better if Cade probably was out.
Yes, would have definitely been better if Cade was out. For sure.
All right, small forward. Some obviously some big names at the top: Bridges, Leonard, Butler, 88, 85, 84. Are you plugging in any of those 3? I mean, I like Bridges a lot tonight.
Yeah, Bridges is great. Getting Phoenix, his almost team, on a back-to-back. Going to play big minutes. Going to take a lot of shots. 45 plus fantasy points in 3 or 4. He's still not priced above 9K. So for sure, like Bridges. Jimmy, great spot. Has looked pretty bad after we sung his praises for a lot of games, and then he comes out with like great matchup against Washington, stinker, and then Denver. Obviously Denver 88 points. Like no one's getting anything done. And then Kawhi like was fine last night. He was like 8,200, so he basically paid off the price. But it's Herb Jones looming, so it's not my favorite spot. I would say Bridges of the 8K tier is my guy.
Franz Wagner is $7,200. We talked Miller already. I guess we'll have to find out the Bogdan news / Jalen Johnson news there, but would be a good spot for him as well at 67. Going over this position again, I didn't really care for a lot of the names we haven't discussed with dual positional eligibility. Franz was certainly one of them. Butler was one of them as well. But when you go work our way down, like Fontecchio's here at 53, but a lot of these other plays we've kind of discussed already. Was there anybody new for you at small forward that you were looking at?
Franz is definitely intriguing. I think Orlando, like their primary pieces are interesting. He was in foul trouble in that Brooklyn game, blowout in the Indiana game, 74 points scored in the New York game. So like it is what it is. The last few games, we know Franz has a ceiling. Definitely hit a little bit of a wall, I'd say, but a really good pace up spot against Toronto. 'Cause
Both Bam
Orlando,
and Eric Gordon are in tonight. Both those guys were probable for today, anyways. But
yeah, Gordon sat at the front end, so
yeah.
definitely some minutes like taken away from like Grayson Allen here. Grayson Allen played 36 minutes last night. Didn't do a lot, but just saying like probably a hit there. I mean, like if Gary Trent doesn't play, I know it's a terrible spot, but like Bruce Brown probably in for big minutes again. He's been super solid in the starting lineup the last two games, 38, 33 minutes, double digit shot attempts, 35, 31 fantasy points, still under 6K. You mentioned Murphy. Keldon should probably play 30 minutes if you want to get there in the tournament. DeAndre Hunter's a little bit interesting to me, John. I know the price is going up and his production has like kind of
Not been great.
There's a lot of weirdness with Atlanta tonight because they're the 9:30 game. It's an amazing spot, like almost as good as it gets. And two of their top 5 players are in. Four of their top 6 are hurt, right? Young and Bay are out. And then you don't know about Johnson and you don't know about Bogdanovich. So like, what if neither of them play? And then you get DeAndre Hunter, who's apparently the minutes cap gone, right? Nope, we could just play all the minutes again. What if we get DeAndre Hunter, like him and Murray, right? Like that would be the whole offense. So a little bit intriguing in tournaments. It's not like a priority of mine. Just hypothetically, I mean, there's no guarantee Johnson plays, and obviously Bogdanovich 3 of 13 with an illness. Like obviously he's feeling pretty, and now has to go into elevation in Utah, right? Like that's not fun. So just throwing Hunter's name out there is like more people are obviously going to flock to Simone, and it's warranted. But obviously Simone has a tougher spot than DeAndre Hunter. I think that's not like,
and he's let people down in 2 of the last 3 as well.
Yeah, and he had the blow up in Charlotte. And he had negative fantasy points until 1 minute left in the first half last game against Toronto. So, like, no guarantee he's, like, as smash of a play as his ownership leads us to
believe. Agreed. Hakaz got 28 minutes the other day. Talked to Alan Horton Tucker. You into the Jalen McDaniels route again here? 21 minutes?
Dude, he did play. He's played a lot of minutes. If there's no Gary Trent, you have to assume that that's just what they're going to continue to do.
Sure.
But it's
he needs to hit his shots here.
Yeah, dude, it's 11 shots is very good. Like 21 minutes, 11 shots. Like there's no complaints there. If he goes 6 for 11, I mean, 4 foul, like the purple stats were fine. I mean, he's not playing a lot, like, but if he goes 6 for 11, I mean, this is a different outcome.
Yeah, that's probably it though down here, right?
Yeah, I don't.
6 games, obviously a smaller player pool to deal with here. Power forward has Durant at 96. Again, core play, top play right up for me. 34 minutes, not a great game against Boston. How many people have said that in Boston this year? But he's shown you what he can do. So happy to do that against Charlotte for sure. Are you in on Banchero at 89, or do you think it's a bit pricey?
I think it's a good matchup, and you could see 50 out of Banchero, but I mean, we saw 49-48 back-to-back games like last week where he has one of those like almost double doubles / double doubles where he's just randomly good in one category and not the other, because that's seemingly he can never just be good in all 3. One day, Paolo Banchero is going to be like one of the best peripheral stat guys, because he's just going to figure out like, oh, I can rebound and assist on the same in the same game that I scored 20 in. Like that's going to be a scary version of Paolo, because it's seemingly one or the other like every night.
I get that he took 9 free throws, but six field goals.
Right, dude. Like on a night he has 9 assists. It's like he was an all-star this year. That's what's scary. Like he's an all-star on a team that's now like again in top 6 in the East, and like they're obviously great and whatnot. It's a tournament play, because I do think most secure for minutes, and obviously the highest upside.
Agreed. Zion at 83, I also like here. I think it's
Dude.
good. I think it's a really good spot for him. If Jalen Johnson was going to be in, I mean, this is where you like you said, if we don't get this news, throw a lot, and you're okay with the 0. Like, no one's going to play Jalen Johnson if he's questionable going into 7:00. So you could get a 1% Jalen Johnson that goes out there and plays 35 minutes and gives you a double against Utah here tonight. So
I think it's worth mentioning, to the Johnson point, that if you remember, his status previously was doubtful, right?
Mhm.
That was his Wednesday status, and he was ruled out. Anytime, I think it's a notable change when someone goes from like out to doubtful, and then the next game they're questionable, right? Because like clearly there's a progression in health. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, it's obviously risky, as you mentioned. We don't even know if he'd play full minutes. It's only been 9 days, so you have to assume he would.
Yeah.
Because of sprain, his cardio is going to be fine. Only thing you have to worry about, if he hasn't been doing any like much, and it's in Utah, like that's obviously a little bit concerning. But yeah, if you're playing multiple lineups, Jalen Johnson's fine. If not, you probably
Yeah, definitely not a single lineup play unless you're really okay with just lighting the money on fire if he takes a 0. But good leverage play where no one's going to play the questionable guy here tonight. John Collins, obviously 71, great spot opposite of Jalen Johnson there. You've talked Keldon, Sohan is down there here as well. Isaiah Stewart going to get the minutes with no Osor Thompson still here. Hasn't like wowed us yet, but 25 and 22 fantasy points the last couple of games here.
Dude, he came out hitting all those shots that I wanted Simone to hit in the first, like early, and I'm like, this is great. When is this joke gonna end? Because like Stewart was also like highly rostered. Like whatever. He's a fine player, right? It's fine.
Yeah. Hendricks is here. Obviously, another guy you can take a risk on if you wanted to at 52. You tweeted, got Poco here, 27 minutes last time out against Memphis. Are you going back to the Poco well, or are we going Jonathan Isaac here tonight?
What was the tweet, John? What was the tweet?
Wired was playing Jonathan Isaac at like 23%. And
no, Tired
was playing Jonathan Isaac at 23%. Wired was playing Poku at 2%.
So look, I did some digging on this. Okay, I went to our good friends at Popcorn Machine because I wanted to see why. Right? Why did Alexei Pokusevski, who has played 16 minutes this year, play 27?
Because he's good.
So that's where I started. Like, we've seen him, obviously, like he's a very good rim protector, very good defensively, because he was like Chet and Wemby before they were drafted, right? Like,
they took him at like what, 13 overall or something?
Very high in the draft. So I went in, looked at Pokusevski's shifts. So he checked in at the 5-minute mark. He was the backup center, or I mean, him and Grant Williams checked in together. Okay, so whatever. He was in the front court. Played the final 5 minutes of the first quarter. He then played the final 7:19 of the first half, right? So we got 12 first half minutes out of Alexei Pokusevski. No foul trouble from Nick Richards. They took him off the floor. Trey Mann basically played 2 minutes of the final of the half. He sat for like 7 minutes. They didn't close with Micic in a game in the first half, in a game that Micic had 25 actual.
Mm-hmm.
But Pokusevski was in the closing lineup for the first half. Poku, Grant, Brandon Miller, Trey Mann, Miles Bridges. That was your closing lineup. Second half, Poku checked in at the 8:55 mark of the third quarter, John. Played the entire third, and then played 5 minutes and 15 seconds in the fourth before checking out at the 2-minute mark. Like, legit shifts. No foul trouble involved in all this. He basically just leapfrogged JT Thor. He played 6 more minutes than Davis Bertans, who we've talked about a bunch. Like, and I think that's the one roadblock. Bertans missed all the shots for a second straight game. If Davis comes out and makes shots, then I think it's a little tricky. Maybe we see him extended over Poku. But like, where we know Jonathan Isaac is not getting to 26 minutes, We don't know that about Pokusevski, because what if Bertans misses all the shots again? Well, Poku's just going to eat all those. It's going to outplay more minutes again. And I'm just saying, like, as of right now, Jonathan Isaac is extended past 20 minutes and he breaks down. And it just is what it is. And I think Jonathan Isaac has been really good for 4 straight games. He's been over 20 fantasy points in each of those games. But, like, I'm going to take Poku at 1/20th the ownership.
Sure.
1/10th the ownership for the chance that he actually, I think he's going to play regardless, Poku, right? Like, it's the end of the year. Charlotte they played 7 guys the other day. Like, it's not like, or 8 guys rather. All of them played 20 minutes. So what if he plays Bertans 21 minutes and that's still more than Jonathan Isaac. So I'm planting my flag on Poku today, and that's not just because me and you are like Poku fans number 1 and 2. It's just he's a good fantasy producer when he gets the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think there's just a greater opportunity for minutes on a slate. He's 20% less rostered than John Isaac, who is just basically capped at 18 minutes. So that's where I stand with Poku tonight. I'm taking a stand, and that's why I made the tweet. If Isaac goes out there and beats me, he beats me. But, like, if Poku goes out and plays 26 minutes and I lose, then I feel like I made the right decision, because the opportunity was there for Poku more than it was for Isaac.
Sure. Moving on over to the center position. We have the Joker here, obviously 11-8. Faced them earlier this year, 67 fantasy points, 39 actual. Wemby in that game.
Actual.
Yeah, 39 actual. Wemby in that game, no slouch though, 59 fantasy points. That was his 4 blocks, 6 steals, 10 blocks and steals game. He did that in 25 minutes. So, he's playing over 30 now.
That's you rounding up. He actually only technically got to 24 points.
Yeah.
But who's counting?
Yeah.
Who's counting?
Right. He's playing over 30 now. So, battle of the MVP versus a future defensive player of the year.
Future MVP and
probably a future
MVP.
MVP. Yeah, maybe I'm shorting him. Are you looking to spend up at center tonight?
Definitely not a bad idea. And I don't think the field has really clicked on either of their names. Let's see. What a recent update. Jokic 16% and Wemby is 3% rostered. So 3% Victor Wembanyama. We say this every slate, and because we were tilting at the same time, same game, different reasons for Spurs Houston. I played Wemby at like 2% the other night, and he obviously had a bad game. Dylan Brooks was really good against him. He did all of his damage when Dylan Brooks wasn't on the floor. But, like, anytime you get Wemby low ownership, like I had a second place finish earlier this year with Wemby at like 5% when he went for 60 against the Suns.
Yeah.
Like, that dude breaks slate. So 3%, I'm instantly interested. The only thing is the game and the competitiveness, right? That's the only thing we have to worry about with Victor Wembanyama.
Agreed. Coach Chris wants to know, we've been paying attention to James Wiseman as a plug. We have talked about him. Again, 3,900 means you're punting the center position or a util spot here. He's obviously been pretty decent in his limited run, rebounding the heck out of the basketball when he's on the floor, which is great to see. Can score the bucket. So, yeah, if you want to go there over Town Horn Tucker for $3,900, I think it's certainly viable. I mean, he's doing this with a healthy Isaiah Stewart as well, which is, I think, kind of big. Obviously, Oscar Thompson being out has helped him here as well. It takes another guy that could rebound off the floor. Bam and Jokic are your 2 highest rostered centers tonight. So, if you want to go that route, go opposite of Bam. Bam is 8,200, obviously a good price tag. Nurkic at 72, coming off of another 20 rebound game for him. Just some pretty big numbers here over the last couple of games. We know Charlotte, a great spot for centers. John Collins. I like Kelly Olynyk here tonight again. So Wendell Carter, I think at 5,500 is in a good spot here. So I think the mid tier is pretty good if you didn't want to spend up. And yeah, I'm fine if you wanted to go and play Wiseman at 39. You mentioned Jonte Porter last slate. He had a lot of rostership behind him. 21 minutes, 10, 6, 6, 4, 1.
What are we doing? I mean, that's just not like that's where I'm like, all right, if I lose to that, like salute to 30% of the field getting to that, right? For Jonte Porter off the bench. I feel like it's going to be a tougher sledding for him with the Orlando front court. I largely agree on everything you said. The field loves getting to Bam, like no matter what. Death taxes, like the field getting to Bam Adebayo. He's been good the last couple games. Hasn't been great. I'd rather probably save $1,000 and go to Nurk in the ultimate spot. The only thing with Nurk is the shot attempts when everyone's healthy are just not there. But when he has the 20 rebounds, 6 assists game, then you get ceiling Nurk, even when the shot attempts aren't there. So definitely interested in Nurk. You mentioned Collins, Olynyk. I mean, just the ceiling on this guy has been crazy. Just the minutes with Kellyo. That's the only thing that's like kind of holding him back. They just seemingly don't want to extend him past 31, 32.
Yeah.
He did share the floor with Jonte Porter last game. So there is some overlap there. Capella, I've liked the Capella minutes of late. Last 3 games, 27, 26, 27. And in each of those games, 36 plus fantasy points for Clint Capella. If they're shorthanded, like Capella's probably gets extended. I don't think there'd be any sort of like ability to limit his minutes. If Jalen Johnson comes back, that scares me because you pointed it out a bunch. Jalen Johnson, they have definitely toyed with Jalen Johnson at the 5 lineups.
They like it.
Yeah, it's a good dude. Someone as athletic and like in space as him. Like, yeah, Quinn Snyder should explore that. So if Jalen Johnson's out, I
will say this actually. I'll take that back only slightly. Obviously they are now lacking a little bit more rotational depth on the wings. Like there's no Bay anymore either. So they could have a need to keep him more there and keep Capella at the 5. But just kind of a quick thought process there.
And possibly, and if Bogdanovich doesn't play either, like then they'd be super depleted. Now you're like forcing, like Hunter's just locked into your 3 essentially, and like you're just not moving that guy off. You've asked me about Wendell Carter every slate. Every slate, you're like, what do we do with Wendell Carter? Wendell Carter's been really good lately. It's a good matchup against Kellyo. I mean, this is a ceiling rebound game for Wendell Carter. Toronto's a very bad rebounding team with Kelly Olynyk at the 5 and like going small. Would you play Wendell Carter at 55?
I do like Wendell Carter. I went over this on the show this morning. I mean, I'm okay if he plays 28, 27. It's just when he gets down to like 25, 22, 22 is where you're really, iffy on it. Now he gave you 24 and 25 minutes. That's fine. At 55, you're kind of getting away with it here. But if he's going to play close to 30, like he's been a really good, really productive player. So I'm okay checking it out for sure.
This is a double-double for him, just given how bad Toronto is at with their rebounding in their front court. Like Kellyo's a good player.
Jalen Duran just did against them. 24 and 23.
Yeah, it is. Toronto, like, salute to Kellyo for doing it, but he's just not.
No, he's really a power forward.
Yeah,
right?
He is a traditional power forward that has been like moved away from. Like his position is like he no longer exists in the NBA. Kind of.
Right. Because like so many teams now use stretch 5s that they're just like, oh, like Kelly can be our stretch 5, and he's like, oh, okay.
Well, I'll be on the perimeter. So like, who do you guys have rebounding?
Right.
6'5" Bruce Brown, a power forward. I don't know if that's the play. So yeah, I think
he came into the league when like Ryan Anderson was a thing, right? And, and it's like, oh, he can go be that guy. He can go. I mean, he got a lot of Dirk comparisons unfairly as well, but it's just big white guy. So that's all that was. But like he was a spot up outside 3-point shooter, and there you go. So Grant Williams is down here, Zubac is down here as well. I'm fine playing either of those two if you want to get to it. Would you take any shots with Walker Kessler? 24, 19 minutes, last 2 games.
I don't know what those minutes look like if Taylor Hendricks is healthy. Like I assume it probably stays in that ballpark, but
Agreed. The Prince, you want your center on FanDuel for tonight? Let's see. The Chalk plays.
Well, this guy, he asked me last night in Discord.
Yeah.
And I give him 3 centers. He's like, damn, played Luke Cornett. I'm like, dude, I didn't. He's like, oh, I think it was like Horford. I'm like, dude.
You played Cornett with Horford.
You played Cornett. Like, Funny guy. Salute to you, DePrince.
Anyways, well, your highest owned centers on FanDuel tonight is Bam is 30%. So everybody's getting to Bam here tonight. Seems like Yusuf Nurkic getting 20% on FanDuel as well. So
dude, I mean, Yusuf Nurkic is a pretty good play. I think there are some. Hey, everyone in the Discord already saw it, so we're just broadcasting it to a few more people. I do think there's I have mild interest in Nikola Jovic, because if you remember, this was the game that Jovic got thrown out in when he played Detroit a week ago or so, and he was tracking for 28 to 30 minutes in that game, and then he got ejected. And
you think because they play big here?
I do. I think that was the reason. And
no
and maybe
Love,
no Kevin Love, no Tyler Hero, and again, it's
only 2 games removed from 25 and 27, so it's not like he had a bad game against Denver. Most people do,
And Highsmith Highsmith is basically out of the rotation. It just needs to be him over Caleb Martin essentially. And I think that's possible. Martin loses out some minutes. Even Duncan Robinson loses out some minutes. That all trickles to Jovic.
Sure. All right, let's build a lineup here then. I like Keontae George at point guard. You got to make a decision though. We going Bones Highland here. Get Harden claims.
No, I don't think. I get what you're saying. I'm not
because he was playing minutes regardless, right? He's playing 20 minutes for Westbrook.
Yeah.
And now Harden doesn't think he's going to play.
But then he was upgraded to questionable. That's a little bit where he said that, and then maybe he started feeling better. That comment came out last night, right?
So Gary Trent ruled in.
Okay, so that kills a lot of Toronto for me, because Gary Trent's been playing so many minutes when he's healthy. I'm down to play Poku. If I'm all in on the Pokuševski. He's actually up to 7%. So the Pokuševski is on the move there.
All right. So would you rather play Norm than over Bones then? Is that where you're for value? What are your thoughts here? $900 difference between the two. Oh, or do you? What's your spend up? Let's start there. What's your top spend today? If you're building lineups tonight. Is it DeJounte?
Probably DeJounte would probably be the top dog.
Okay.
Are we next question? Are we playing THT? That's the next decision, because I think we'll decide on a lot of different things if we do or don't play THT.
Since we're building one lineup, I think we have to.
Okay.
He's 44%.
That could move. That might move. That might go north. That's big, large field tournaments. He's gonna be. Let's see.
70% in singles.
He stayed at 44 per new update. So that's still staying at that number. Jonathan Isaac's still staying at that number. Sasser's still staying at 20%. I wanted to check what Pokuševski up to 7%. So yeah.
Let's see. I don't think we had another actual value. Oh, you like Jovic? Jovic will fit there. $5,900.
It's Jovic or Isaac if you wanted a value, a real value.
Bruce Brown or Gary Trent if you had to pick one.
I'm a little off. I think Brown plays a lot. I'm just a little uncertain with Trent being in what everyone's role. Quickly's defined. Olynyk's defined.
You could go off Bam actually and get more. Play Bam rather and get $8,200, which is Jamal Murray or Paul George.
Yeah, both. Murray, that gets you. Either one doesn't matter.
Okay. George Talon Horton Tucker. Did not say that name correctly at all. Talon Horton Tucker. Troy Murphy, Alexei Pokuševski, Bam Adebayo, DeJounte Murray, Nikola Jovic, and Paul George with $200 left over. Do we think Harden sits? Brendan, I mean, that's what we've been talking about all show. He says he doesn't think he's going to play. James does bring up the fact that he was upgraded to questionable for tonight. This is an 8 o'clock start, and we don't have late swap. So
unless you're on FanDuel.
So, make that decision. If you want to, I've already said this. I think you can play Bones Highland because I think he's going to play 20 minutes no matter what. He's been playing 20 minutes in 2 games prior to Harden being ruled out pretty much as the Russell Westbrook role. And if then Harden gets ruled out, you have 30 plus minutes out of Bones Highland. So I think you can go either way here. But for some GVP tournament plays here, we got a couple chalk plays for sure with George and Town Horton Tucker and Bam. Then we're going a little contrarian with Murphy, Poku, Jovic. Murray's obviously a little bit chalky there as well. But
I do think there's something interesting, though, John, just on the Harden front.
Sure.
Now that I remember this, we had a beat writer, and I'll have to figure out who it was. Was Boots on the Ground yesterday that tweeted out because yesterday was Kawhi and Harden on the injury report, right?
Mm-hmm.
They tweeted out Kawhi was on the floor for his normal workout routine and James Harden was not. So it's possible that if we get that information again and Harden's not working out pre-lock, that we'll know ahead of lock. Like even if it's not announced, like if Harden's not working out, and we'll get that in the Discord if that's the case. Like we'll post that data ahead of time.
I agree with you there. So all right, everybody, get in the Discord. If you have any questions, find us there. Get us on Twitter. James and I will be back next week. Obviously, we'll have the playbook content throughout the weekend. But until then, everybody, good luck tonight. No late swap. Roster lock at 7 o'clock. Good luck.